But look, in this business, certainly in the investment industry, we all want to find the breakthrough. Breakthrough is, in our mind, is going to make us a lot of money. And one of the interesting aspects of Alberta is that you have some wonderful technical institutions here, wonderful universities. And in particular, a group called the National Institute for Nanotechnology. We see breakthrough in this business in the advanced materials science area. And NINT brings that to us. So NINT became a project team member as well in this project. So now you've got I think a very strong technology group involved with the project. But to carry that forward, we need good investment strategy. And so the third team member is a company called Intertech Capital. And Intertech Capital is the second or third largest venture fund manager in North America. If you're in the financing forum today, you would have heard a lot of discussions around how venture capital works. But in general, the way it works is they have a fund, and that fund will actually push money into the technology here. They will not put any money into that technology unless it has a great management team. It has a very strong management team, otherwise they just won't bother investing. And why do they want a good, strong management team? Because they got the problem of pushing this technology up into the marketplace. So strong management is absolutely essential. Well, at Avenir, we said, look at it. That's not necessarily the way we want to approach it. We are looking, though, for a strong user market. And as I said, we're building a community. That community is our end user. So we're investing, obviously, in that community. And in doing so, instead of pushing the technology up, we're going to pull the technology up. We're going to create a market for the technology. And we're going to invest in great management teams, local management teams. The result of all this is that you create the Avenir community. And the Avenir community is those technology providers and the end users. And we see that as being a tremendous ability to have the market evaluate this technology. We're excited about Avenir, and we're looking forward to the future of it. I want to thank you, and I'm certainly willing to take any questions.
I think we want to stay tuned and be kept up to date, David, of your progress. I, for sure, who live in St. Albert and are intrigued to watch the process that city councils go through that are being challenged to look at their historical way of looking at developments versus looking at the role that clean technologies may well be playing in community design. It was
just really good to see that there are a lot of people actively involved in finding the financial means to make this possible rather than just the emotional wishes or the political agendas or the whatever, you know, that it can actually make sense in the pocketbook too, which to me adds the reality of sustainability.
Makes it grounded and practical. And how is the discussion today relevant to your business and to your life?
Geez, that's a good question.
You get a good meal out of it.
Well, it was extremely relevant to my business and in return my life since I own the business.
Right.
But just to see the reality of the other players in space here in Alberta, you know, where we're funding developments, we need to see that other people are getting the technologies commercial to be developed. And you know, some great panelists that they had, and you know, just the networking's been great too. Hearing about you know, people trying to help other Albertans see that specifically on the retirement issue, that they can get involved in helping get these companies off the ground, and instead of just nurturing the gardening grandkids, we can nurture a company. And I think there's a lot of mental capital in our retiring generation that we could use in starting up a bunch of companies around here.
Well, the interesting thing for me personally is trying to connect up some of these efforts that are going on into a more cohesive unit around how do we create the change change we want to see. So when we're talking about the finance, for instance, or we're talking about green building construction, or we're talking about even native plant species, or how do we generate power, it's how to connect up all these great ideas with all these leaders and actually try to affect change within the province.
Right. So integrating different sectors and leaders in different sectors.
Yep.
And yourself?
For me, I guess the interesting part of the day is the dialogue that's gone on in the financing area. That's where I've been spending my time. And, you know, it's interesting, the role of government has been a key area. Do we be leaders, or should we be leaders, followers? Should we be investing more, investing less? Should there be a tax that's associated with a more significant tax that's associated with what generally is trying to do in the clean tech space? That's been an interesting dynamic. And then also, how do we get more capital in for the early stage projects? More capital and more management that can leverage that capital to do great things.
And so, how has the discussion in the finance area informed some of those subjects? Like
great panelists. We had fabulous panelists that I think had lots to say on the topic, and I think are enthusiastic about helping to invigorate or see that change start to happen.
Our ultimate objective is to test the following. Is there a newfound respect for the environment emerging in something other than Greenpeace and a lot of young people who are terrified about climate change? I think what you are showing to us today, and maybe showing to yourselves, is that we have emerging in Alberta an industry. And I define an industry as something which has a common underlying value that drives change on many fronts simultaneously, whether it be water and waste management, whether it be municipal planning, whether it be projects, whether it be renewable energy, whether it be lifestyle. Something is going on that is creating a market for clean tech. I think, and I think you would agree, that that's something which I call a newfound respect for the environment. It isn't climate change per se. It isn't peak oil per se. It's that people have taken 100 years to figure it out. But if we're going to have a sustainable economy and a stable environment for our, let's leave a legacy behind that says the environment counts. And it shouldn't have to count just because we're afraid. It should count because we respect it. And I think that's what we have in the room today. And I think that's what you're showing to one another. But if I'm right, and if we're right, there is emerging in front of us and evidence of it today, that the new respect for the environment is in fact defining the clean tech industry, then we need to do something more than we've done today. This should be viewed as a test, as a taster. Nice meal, nice sessions, nice people. Hopefully you met someone you want to meet again. Hopefully you learned something. And hopefully you'd like to see this repeated. I'm challenging you, every one of you, that if we're going to have an industry, then there are moments when you come together and there are moments when you compete. And they're both healthy. You saw that in the Olympics. They competed like hell by the hour, but they could come together and celebrate. If we're going to have a clean tech industry in Alberta, then I challenge you, individually and collectively, to find what is it that we can do. Is it common marketing? Is it trade shows? Is it a conference annually? What could we do together to help keep this spirit alive and define this emerging technology, contributing to diversification of Alberta's economy off raw carbon in all forms? Wheat, meat, fiber, timber, oil and gas, that's all raw. What you are doing is bringing value added into our economy. What you are doing is diversifying the economy and make it sustainable for future. I congratulate you on that, but I also challenge you. Let's find ways to work together into our future. If you have ideas, let us know. The Alberta Council of Technologies is not going to be that engine. We put events like this together. They're some way provocative, and we're provoking you to make a difference. But we will not be there. Like the Lone Ranger leaving town and leaving the silver bullet behind. If you believe, then we expect you'll contribute to making that difference and share with us your ideas. With that, if you're driving home, please take your car. Thank you.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your experience of the symposium? What are some insights and ideas that you're taking home?
You know, the interesting thing was the symposium in Edmonton versus the symposium in Calgary were completely different perspectives in our particular session, and that was about lifestyle. And I think at the end of it, there was a lot of discussion over the stick or the carrot, but then also the fact that there's an entire spectrum in between of those two and what can be done. And the role that government policy plays, but that government policy is fed by public perception. So it really is a